What is the craziest email that you feel like everybody missed?
The most interesting email is this connection of the House of Rothschild to Jeffrey Epstein. Edmond de Rothschild, at the time, was facing a problem with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice was alleging that Edmond de Rothschild, the bank in Switzerland, was helping wealthy Americans dodge taxes. So what they decide is that they'll pay a fine. Now, to negotiate that settlement, they hire two individuals, Kathy Rumler and Jeffrey Epstein. He says, I think you will find 45.5 penalty, that's 45.5 million, legal 10 million for legal fees to Kathy, me 25, all less than 80, pretty good. They paid 45.5 million to the Department of Justice. Epstein was paid 25 million to broker that deal. The reason why this puts it all together for me is you have the Rothschilds negotiating with the American Justice Department. Who do you hire? There are 10 law firms which you hire. You don't hire Jeffrey Epstein unless you're hiring him for a reason.
I talked to Ellie de Rothschild, and so I mentioned that earlier. So he represented their whole family, so there had been a whole bunch of people. Most of them I never would have met, but I knew Ellie. I never met people, but there were people that called me that either insinuated or said they knew Jeffrey through a financial relationship. And so, I mean, they could have been actors, but in the time, a guy calls me up. I'll give you an example. It's just a because I want you to understand this, because it's so confusing to me. He would say, like, I'm providing financial advice to the founders of Google. I'm providing financial advice to Jeff Bezos. I'm providing financial advice for the chief technologist at Google. And wow, I'm in good company, because these are really smart guys with a lot of money. And you have to put yourself in the mindset of if my attorney said, he was qualified to argue in front of the Supreme Court, I'd believe him. I didn't say to call the Supreme Court and say, tell me, is he really an attorney, or did he do this? And I'd get a phone call from someone like a guy named Meyerwald. Who said he was the chief technology of Google. Jeffrey has been helping me. He's financial advisor. I told Jeffrey I was building a boat. He told me to call you. I had never built a boat, because I hadn't. But if I wanted to build a boat, I would go to 𝗧𝗿𝗱𝗁𝗃, because reputationally they're the best boat builders.
He thought that there was a world that existed that would be a combination of both politics and business and leadership. What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was something, the Illuminati, there's some mystery about it, people that ran the world. It was politicians, but David said most countries, the politicians get elected for 4 years or 8 years, separate from the royal families in England or in the Middle East. Someone's there for 4 years and then they're not there anymore. The most important people to have stability and consistency would be businessmen. So he formed this Trilateral Commission of businessmen and politicians from 3 major continents. So it was the North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians. So he said to me, would you like to be on the Trilateral Commission? Now, I was 30 years old, 32 years old. I said, great. And he said, well, you have to fill out this application so they have your bio. And I looked at the list of people, and it was Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, Paul Volcker, every great leader in America, the Asians, the Japanese, and with a very long description of their history. And they asked me to fill in what I would like to have written. And I wrote Jeffrey Epstein, comma, just a good kid, which I thought was funny, nobody else did.
Do you think there's a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and UFOs?
For sure.
And what is it?
Absolutely. So, look,
Epstein put together a conference basically hosting and platforming all of the top gravity researchers in the world. Epstein was taking people down in submarines, including Stephen Hawking, to study quantum gravitational anomalies in the Bahamas Basin, basically in the Bermuda Triangle region. So Epstein was clearly interested in understanding gravity, and quite possibly for the sake of propulsion. So, okay, Epstein is continuing some kind of research that Robert Maxwell was involved in that has to do with conquering gravity. I tell you why I think electrogravitics, but here's where it gets really much crazier. That, by all accounts, all of the young women involved in Epstein's compromat operations were, well, most of them were Nordic, and none of them were black or brown women, transhumanist. And so Epstein is trying to create eugenically enhanced Nordic people at Zorro Ranch. This fixation with Nordics and eugenic uses of biotechnology that then spins Epstein's interest in gravity in the direction of, oh, the UFO phenomenon, electrogravitics. He's interested in these Nordics and their connection to UFOs. So these people were interested in Atlantis. They were trying to breed Nordics, and they were interested in gravity, in conquering gravity. Therefore, I suspect that the interest in gravity is an interest in electrogravitics and, you know, the Townsend Brown effect. And basically, it's all part of the UFO phenomenon that they're trying to crack.
We decided to put together an initiative which was called Project Starlight. And it was very much involved in the early days with briefing senior people in the military and government. In 1995, I organized and Mr. Rockefeller funded a gathering of the first witnesses at 𝗖𝗆𝗃𝗓 in Monterey, near Monterey in California. These were people, they were cosmonauts, they were from Russia, they were astronauts such as Edgar Mitchell. They were people who had worked with Eisenhower and knew of Eisenhower's concern that he had lost control over the secrecy on this issue around 1956. When, ironically, the Rockefeller Commission reorganized the Department of Defense and the CIA into such a Byzantine mess that to this day, these projects have not had proper oversight at that level.
I think you have intergenerational pools of capital, and right now they are over-influenced by occult.
Occult.
Yes, so I think you have interdimensional intelligence, which is operating, demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this thing about good and evil is real. And I can't find it anymore. I found it once. There were, in the 30s, a British physicist got up and said, you know, we are being manipulated but from other dimensions by intelligent beings from other dimensions. So I think, you know, if you study Christianity and you read the Bible, you're dealing with both divine intelligence and demonic intelligence. And I think too much of the leadership has gotten deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
Wow.
Precognitive sentient phenomena, because that's one event. There were any number of other things equally disturbing, equally spread out over time and space, equally different in the way that the presentation took place. So you end up with the trickster.
We go into a country as an undercover team, and each one of us is exactly like the people of the land. Say we're being now sent somewhere, Africa, for instance. So we'll take on the same shape and form of the people in Africa. The characteristics, traits, approach, interests, everything. The same exact form, inside and out. As we are there, you know, it's like an undercover agent. He is there for a while, no one touches him, he has to start working, build a house, family, everything is fine, okay, for years and years. After that, he starts doing something. He gets a reminder from outside. You got to start working. You know, he already forgot about it. And all of a sudden, they call him, here is your commander, this and this and that. You know, like in the movies. And like in Jason Bourne. And this is what's happening with us. We have to wake up. We have to remember that we have a special mission. And really, this isn't our place. We're coming from a completely different place. So we have to find our friends according to this awakening. Did you get a phone call? I got a phone call. He got a phone call, and so on. And then we gather as a group. So from this entire planet, we are aliens. We're coming from a different galaxy. We received this ray of light, this awakening, individually, and now we're gathering as groups, starting to prep ourselves to conquer Earth. That's the mission. What? You don't see it?
How do we conquer it?
How do we conquer it? We're also sent the method. We're being shown everything gradually. We're being taught. Not taught, but kind of being trained, activated, and then that emotion and mind awakens in us. But in fact, it's new to us, but in fact it's coming from our original planet. And thanks to that original natural force we have, we will take over. We'll take over those living on Earth. What are you looking at me like that? You don't believe what I'm telling you? I'm telling you seriously. It's even more than that. It's not a different galaxy. It's a different universe. It's a different dimension altogether. That's who we are.